I saw DMDM being brought into the interrogation room by Chief Trong, who questioned her in the tone of an investigator interrogating a suspect. Why do you want to kill the entire Van family? Because my mother works herself to the bone at home, taking care of my grandparents, but she is insulted daily by them because she cannot bear children for my stepfather. As a result, my grandparents treat her poorly, yet she endures them for my sake. Hearing DMDM's voice from the surveillance room, tears streamed down my cheeks. Even once again, I still couldn't take care of her properly. Then DMDM continued. One day, I overheard my grandparents' plan. They told my stepfather, Van Kiet, that after I grew up, he would marry me because their family wanted an heir. Then, while my mother was out, he cultivated feelings for me first. Although I didn't tell my mother, she noticed Van Kiet's strange attitude toward me, which led her to argue with him, demanding a divorce and wanting to take me away. But the entire Van family disagreed. Then my mother made poisonous threats in front of Van Kiet, saying that if he dared to lay a hand on me, she would not spare his family. My grandparents, wanting to keep me with them, secretly planned to kill my mother. When I heard this news, I decided to kill them first. Hearing DMDM's words, the shame within me made my face burn with humiliation. Her love for me was simpler and far deeper than my love for her. Next, Chief Trong asked DMDM, "So, have you ever been harmed by Van Kiet?" DMDM replied, "No, my stepfather is incompetent, he couldn't hurt me. I could always toy with him easily. My mother is very smart, and I am smart too. Since I was little, I liked to read the biology books my mother brought home. Gradually, I also became interested in genetic biology, aspiring to be a scientist like my mother. She gave up her career midway because of me. I want to continue her dream. However, I feel that my mother has started to calmly handle and endure these things. Every move she makes me feel she is also harboring some dangerous plan. So, I secretly monitored her until I discovered the documents about that mushroom in her room. Then, before each time she was about to act, I would switch the mushrooms in the glass vial with similarly sized and shaped ordinary mushrooms. When my mother was ready to act, I would drag her to the snack shop that specializes in mushroom soup in the South Alley, and then I would add my mother's blood mushroom into my grandmother's soup. Since I couldn't determine when my grandmother would die, I purposely asked my mother to take me to the temple to pray for blessings, creating an alibi. Then my grandfather and stepfather died in the same way. So my mother didn't harm them. The mushrooms she fed the Van family were all ordinary. The one who truly poisoned and killed them was me. Chief Trong said, "So you were prepared to die in place of your mother?" DMDM replied, "No, I want my mother to continue living for me because..." At that moment, Chief Trong's cigarette but fell to the ground. "Because of what?" "Because I am just a clone." "What? How did DMDM know?" I couldn't believe it and wanted to rush into the interrogation room, but the police officers stopped me. DMDM continued, "I saw a picture of my grandmother and realized she looked exactly like me. Then I secretly searched my mother's hidden computer and found a video recording. In the video, I saw my mother's large belly, the pure lineage of my existence. Next I discovered the secret: I am a clone, and I am also my mother's mother. It turns out that you and I have always been each other's daughters and have always been each other's mothers." My soul shattered completely at DMDM's words, and salty tears once again washed over my face, carrying a deeper meaning. Ignoring everything, I rushed into the interrogation room and tightly embraced DMDM. I held DMDM's neck, crying out, "I'm sorry DMDM, I couldn't protect you." DMDM also held me tightly. But even as we embraced, we felt further apart from each other. "Mother, you don't have to suffer anymore." DMDM, why? Why did you want to do this? I am your mother, I should be the one protecting you. Mother, when you were my daughter, you definitely loved me more. 3 months later, the court's verdict was delivered. DMDM volunteered to take the blame for me and was sentenced to death. I was also sentenced to a 3-year suspension of execution with the help of Lou Deep. Lou Deep found me and wanted me to revive my research again, using the results of this scientific research to benefit humanity. "Or you can give me the research technique. After all, I saved you." Lou Deep finally revealed his selfish intentions. I picked up a surgical scalpel and slashed it across his face. "Lou Deep, if it weren't for you, DMDM wouldn't have died." At that moment, Lou Deep completely removed his disguise. "She was just a clone. Compared to the achievements that your cloning technique brought you, she could be remade 1,000 times, 10,000 times." In an instant, I was enraged by Lu Deep's words, raising my hand to slap him. Lu Deep closed his eyes, preparing to accept it. Just as I was about to hit him, my arms suddenly stopped. The anger within me transformed into a kind of cold calm. Lu Deep, do you know why Pham and I wanted to break up with you? Because you will never understand love that cannot be replicated. Your heart has no warmth. You will never dream of acquiring the cloning technology. What do you mean? Because all the experimental records have been completely destroyed. The most important thing is, Pham and I is dead. My words finally shattered all of Lu Deep's illusions. Many years ago, I was born. Not from a womb, but from the laboratory of Pham and I. To achieve breakthroughs in the field of cloning, Pham and I conducted experiments on her own body hundreds of times. I am the living proof of her achievements. However, everything Pham and I did went against scientific theory. A clone cannot be tolerated within the Research Institute's internal affairs. Unfortunately, Pham and I made a careless mistake that raised suspicion and initiated an internal investigation at the Research Institute. She took me out of the laboratory in the middle of the night. Pham and I secretly rented an apartment. That was my first home. I grew there from a fertilized egg into a newborn baby, and from a newborn into a child. Except for a 20-year age difference, we were almost identical in every aspect. But we lived in two different worlds. She could see the light and the world outside. I could not. Pham and I didn't have time to take care of me. She hired nannies, and the private tutor became the closest person to me. Although I didn't have parents in the human sense, I had Pham and I. As a child, she must have been loved by her mother, spoiled by her grandmother. I wanted that too. But from the very beginning, it was destined to be an unattainable hope. In that apartment, my cells replaced themselves at an extremely fast rate, maturing from a babbling toddler into a graceful young girl. What took others 10 years, I accomplished in just 3. Pham and I worried that my rapid changes would arouse the suspicions of the nanny and tutor, so she changed both every month. Thus, those strangers to whom I had just begun to form connections quickly left me. Perhaps everyone thought I would incessantly question Pham and I. Why couldn't I call her mother? Why couldn't I go outside and see the world? But I never did that. I was like an underwater rock, living all along in a desolate area. I had no ability to fantasize, nor did I know that I could have illusions. Before long, I grew to Pham age. But clearly, Pham and I was aging and growing weaker, to the point where even walking became difficult for her. One day, she came to the apartment and, after chatting with me like a friend, she suddenly became serious. Pham and I said, I'm going to die soon, I have a chronic illness. I will tell you everything. She told me about how she created me, and why I could only ever stay in that apartment. Then Pham and I said she had a daughter named DMDM, who was, in fact, the mother she had created. But her current body was deteriorating, and she could no longer care for her. She wanted me to take care of DMDM after she passed away. At that moment, I was no longer a lightless clone. I would appear as Pham and I and have the life she had. At first, I thought I would be sad about my identity, but when she offered me the chance to experience being a real human, I felt no joy. Instead, I was filled with fear. I knew nothing about the outside world. It was as foreign to me as I was to it. Yet, I was a clone. I was something that wasn't even a pet. Whatever she said, I would do. To perfectly continue her life, she rejuvenated my cells so that I could grow and age at a normal pace. In the following days, she struggled with her ailing body, guiding me to mimic everything about her appearance and speech, her habits, even her sleeping position. She shared all the details of her family and this world with me. It took me a year to completely transform into Pham and I, even resembling her more than she did herself. When spring turned cold and then warm again, she died under my watch, and I began to accept her world. For the first time I was kissed, for the first time I was called mother, and for the first time I could speak and laugh with everyone as a normal person. Every day was filled with intense emotions and a racing heartbeat. Before long, I adapted to Pham's life and became intoxicated by it. I didn't know whether Pham and I treated DMDM as her daughter or as a mother deep within her heart, since I had never had a mother like Pham and I. Therefore, I was sure that DMDM was my daughter. My love for DMDM was no different. I thought happiness would last forever until DMDM grew up, and the Van Kiet family revealed their true colors like demons. I couldn't endure it anymore and argued with Van Kiet time and again. I wanted to divorce him, but his parents threatened me countless times. If I wanted to divorce him, he would kill me and then take DMDM for himself. I gradually understood that only when Van Kiet was dead could DMDM and I be freed from pain. So, I planned to kill Van Kiet's parents first. For 3 consecutive years, Van Kiet's parents and Van Kiet himself died just as I had planned. Using blood mushrooms as the means of murder left no loopholes in my plan. As a mother, driven by the desire to protect my daughter and the love of a mother, I killed, but I had overlooked the fact that DMDM was also Pham Nhi's mother. She had feelings for Pham Nhi that were similar to the feelings I had for DMDM. But DMDM was kinder, more perceptive, smarter, and loved better than Pham Nhi. Thus, DMDM sacrificed herself by borrowing my skin. I saw a world that sheltered these people while turning a blind eye to others. I witnessed a star falling and roses blooming. I saw that God had never appeared beside anyone. I also saw that above each person was enough space for a mother's hand to rest. What is a mother, after all? I don't know. But I know one thing very clearly. When someone looks at another with a mother's loving gaze, she will have no more secrets left.